Hey, what's good, everybody? We are back here at the Fryar Place where the conversations are fire. I'm Irving Fryar. I am your host. Yeah, the hostess with the mostest. That's me. That's me. Y'all come on in the room. I can't see any of you right now. I see a few of you have logged in, but you have not acknowledged yourself. Please do. Listen, we got a great guest tonight, as we always do. I never let you down. Y'all sleeping on my show. You better stop sleeping on my show. We got some good stuff going on here. But before we get to the guest and before we move into the show any further, we got to pay the bills. Check it out.
Are you planning a special trip or a night out? Don't bother with the hassle of driving, parking, and traffic. Just call Ed Smooth Transport. One-way or round trips available. We will take you there, and we will also pick you up. Enjoy a night on the town with Ed Smooth Transport. Call us 609-471-2653 or 609-314-6619. Visit our website to take advantage of our monthly specials at www.smooftransport.com. Ed Smooth Transport, where experience meets comfort.
In Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, there's a slightly slower pace of living. That's also where you'll find the home of Stoltz Fish Structures, where quality, integrity, and world-class customer service are more than just a way to do business. It's a way of life. From our humble beginning over 40 years ago in a small building, to the modern 65,000 square foot facility of today, we've remained at the forefront of our industry. Everything from gazebos and sheds to garages and pergolas, and everything in between.
All right, we are back. We're done with the commercials for now. We're going to introduce our guest. Y'all come on in the room. I see a few of you. I can see a number of viewers that shows on my stream deck, but you have yet to acknowledge yourself. Say hello, say hi, say something so I can see who it is. And when I know who it is, I know where you're from. So holler back at a brother, all right? Let me know who's watching right now. But listen, great guest tonight. This is going to be a conversation that is going to be hot. Let me tell you, we have a lot in common. We've just been talking. He's been to my podcast over there at the Code last week, live guest. We had Jason Martinez last week on with us at the Fryar Place at the Cigar Code in Philly. Live guest, live audience, great show. And this gentleman was there. He took the time out to come holler at a brother. He appreciates the work, but talked to him a little bit and convinced him to come on and be with us in studio today. What's going on, Mama? My mama's watching right now. She said, hey, son. So listen, he is the managing partner of A1 Resources LLC. He's born in Aliquippa, PA. He's been on the cover of Black Enterprise magazine. Yeah, he's a graduate from Columbia University, 20 years on Wall Street. He's been named in the top 50 most successful brokers on Wall Street, y'all. He's in the house today. Come on, give it up for Mark Lay in the house. Listen to the applause. There you go. That's not them. That's me doing that. What's going on, man?
No, it's a pleasure to be here. I have really enjoyed last week, and obviously I'm a big fan of yours. I love football. I love good brothers, and I'm just happy to be here today.
Well, man, I'm a fan of yours. Now we've been taught podcast by Bree. What's going on? Thanks for joining us. She's on YouTube too. Thanks for being with us, man. I'm excited about you telling your story today. You do stuff that some of us really don't have a high IQ about when it comes to particularly African Americans, and having a high financial IQ and how to manage our money, how to make money, how to allow our money to make money for us while we're sleeping. We wake up and there's bigger numbers when we wake up in the morning. That's right. That's how it's supposed to go. But we don't. So I mean, how do you do? Explain what you do to the people. Explain how you do and what you do.
as you stated, I grew up in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
So father worked in the steel mills. Mother was a stay-at-home mom.
Uh-huh.
So growing up, I didn't know a stock from a bond, from a mutual fund. So I didn't have a clue.
Okay.
But as I went on, and because of playing basketball and the opportunities that it brought to me, I was able to go to Columbia University.
Right, right.
While at Columbia, though, I was able to meet men and professionals who talked about this Wall Street stuff. And what happened was one of the biggest supporters of our basketball program worked at a firm called Solomon Brothers, who at the time in the 80s was like the most powerful firm on Wall Street. And I got the opportunity to go to his office, and his office was bigger than the house that I grew up in. So I'm like, whoa. And then I looked out over his office, and it was a trading floor, over 100 yards, bigger than a football field.
Wow.
And what he told me was all those men and women out there make 7 digits. And what he told me was if he had their money, he would probably commit suicide, which meant he was making a lot more money than that. So,
he was making money from all of them.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
He was one of the most powerful people on Wall Street.
Wow.
And a big supporter of Columbia basketball. So it got me really interested in Wall Street. And what Wall Street did for me, like I said, coming from a young man who never heard of a stock or bond or anything, mutual fund or whatever the case may be, it exposed me to how true wealth really is. It wasn't about money. It was about creating wealth. And my years as a trader on Wall Street and then subsequently starting my own firm gave me the opportunity to get a little taste of that American dream.
Wow. I'm going to shift. I wasn't going to ask you this question right now, but you brought it up and it just came in my spirit. Just for the people who are watching right now or who will watch. And if you have a question for Mark, any one of you who are watching right now, we got a bunch of people watching. You're just not acknowledging yourselves. But say hi, okay? But if you have a question for Mark, please just put a Q, capital Q, in the comments with a semicolon after it, and then ask your question, and I'll see if I can get to it. And we'll try to respond to whatever it is you're asking. But for the people who are watching or who will watch this podcast, Mark, give them, in its layman's terms, wealth, how to acquire wealth 101. Do wealth 101. What are some of the simplest things that people can start with in order to help to set themselves up to become wealthy, or at least set themselves up so they don't have to worry about money?
The bottom line is this is what I always tell people. The easiest way to become a millionaire is to start with $500,000. In our community, we don't have it. So, we have to do it a different way. That way is called dollar cost averaging. What that means is every single month you put money into a mutual fund, you save it, whatever means that you deem appropriate for you based on your risk tolerance, how much you are willing, how much you want to make versus how much you want to lose. But if I don't have a ton of money, maybe I start out doing $50 every single month. And as I start making more money as I get older, then it increases to $100 a month. And before you know it, I'm doing $1,000 a month. But then what happens is called compounding.
Right.
So the money that you make, the interest that you make on that, now you're making money on not only the money you put in, the interest that you made on that money, now and additional money that you put in. So dollar cost averaging is the best way to get started. And there's not a such thing as how much do I need. You start out with whatever you have. Most mutual fund companies have minimums, $50, $100, whatever the case may be. People always say, how can I invest in the stock market? I mean, I don't have thousands of dollars. The reality is you only have to buy one share of a company. So if Nike or McDonald's or whatever the case may be, stock is trading at $29, you know how much one share is going to cost you?
$29.
$29.
Yeah.
So don't let anybody ever tell you got to start with thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. You start with what you have. And if I earn 10% on $100, I made my $10. If I made 10% on 1,000, I made 100. If I make 10% on 1,000,000, I make 100,000. But the only way you're going to get there is to start and to do it consistently.
Okay.
Be disciplined.
But you can't you can't put it under your mattress. It has when you say save, it's got to be in something that's going to yield some kind of return when it comes to interest and all. It can't be money stuck up underneath the mattress and you just save every month and you put $50 and $50. It's just going to be what it is you saved, and it's not bearing any interest or making money for you.
What you said is what we've been taught to do. And the reality is, if you put money in a mattress, under the mattress, it's something called inflation. Mm-hmm. And that's how much prices increase. Right. On average, prices increase 3% a year. So if you put money in a mattress and just leave it there, you lose 3% every year. So as an investor, you have to make over that 3% in order to start making money. So no one ever taught us that. No, right. We were taught, grandma put the money in a bra or in the mattress, and that's how we save money. But when you do that, you guarantee yourself a loss. You lose the purchasing power of those assets.
See, these are some of the things, and I don't necessarily want to stay on this kind of talk or information, but I see some people. Michael Witt, grew up with Michael Witt, baseball player. Good to see you, my brother. He said, watching and listening intently. And podcast by Bree. Glenn Morton is watching right now. Listen, I didn't intend on necessarily having a financial class in this podcast, but listen, there are things that we're just, and when I say we, I'm talking about African Americans, African American youth. There are things that we're not taught that when it comes to the financial world and comes to money, managing money, that entirely destroy us. Let me say this. I was retired and I was working with the NFL for a little while. I went to this seminar that they had, financial seminars. Some guys that played in the NFL that started businesses and were successful businessmen after they played in the NFL. So this one particular guy gets up and he's on the stage, and I'm retired now. I played 17 years and I had no clue about finances. And he said something so practical and so fundamental and so simple to do, I actually got mad. He said when he signed his first contract, he came into the league, and he was a kicker. He came into the league, signed his first contract. His father told him, listen, get what you want. Get your house, get your car, figure out what you want and how you want to live, and get that. Pay it off, buy it off. Then figure out how much it costs for you to maintain that, what you need to make every month for you to maintain that lifestyle. And then you save that amount of money because you're playing in the league, so you can save big chunks of money. You save that amount of money, and when you have that amount of money in the bank that's going to yield you enough money every month to pay your bills, now you can live like that for the rest of your life. And then anything over and above that, now you can invest. Now you can take risks. Now you can splurge a little bit. And I'm thinking to myself, how come nobody told me that? That's simple. Mm-hmm. It's simple, but nobody in my sphere of people ever knew anything like that. So I never got that kind of information. I was a little bit upset about that. But yeah, thank you for that 101, finances 101.
And I'm going to tell you one more thing
about
finances.
Please do.
What we were taught by being on Wall Street is it's important to make yourself sound smart. So when I talk about interest rates, I'll say the Federal Reserve is going to cut interest rates by 50 basis points. The average person says,
what the heck is that?
Right. That's 0.5%. 100 basis points is 1%. 50 basis points is 0.5%. 25 basis points is 0.25%. Mm-hmm. But in Wall Street, we talk in a language that you don't understand. So when you're watching CNBC or CNN, and you're hearing somebody talk about the price to earnings on the S&P 500 is currently at 16, and if the Federal Reserve cuts rates by 25 basis points in July, it's going to cause this, that, or the other to happen. Well, once you understand that language, you'll see how simplistic it is. Mm-hmm. It's fourth graders can invest in the markets if, in fact, we teach them the language of the markets. Mm-hmm. That's it.
You've developed you've developed people in that field, in the financial field. You developed groups, and you have these leadership skills. I don't know if you were born with them or if they kind of developed through high school and college. You went to Columbia University. We're going to talk about your basketball career there in a little bit. But how did you always have them, or did time happen to go along and you develop these leadership skills that you now have in order to lead people, groups of people in the finance world?
I just think that as an athlete, you were at a very, very high level.
Mm-hmm.
I was a good basketball player, but playing in the playgrounds and playing on the street, it was a sink or swim mentality.
Right.
I didn't want to get left behind. I didn't want to be, that guy who never got picked. So
right.
I had to make sure someone saw me, and I had to make sure that I showed those skills, or that whatever you want to call it, that made people attracted to me.
Mm-hmm.
So my first love was sports. My mother used sports as a tool to make me get good grades in school.
Mm.
You're not going to play basketball, you're not going to play football unless you get good grades.
Right.
Unfortunately, my father got cancer when I was very young, and he died of cancer. So my mother, being a young man and living in the hood, my mother used the tool that she could to make sure that I garnered or had the education that I was going to need.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, you want to play basketball, you got to get good grades.
Right.
And what happened was, all my boys and all the people around me, they, initially you get you're getting fights and you get picked on because you're getting good grades. That must mean you're a nerd. But what happens is people take notice of it, and then they say, well, maybe I can get good grades
right.
too. Mark ain't that much smarter than me. And so those types of skills I've learned is as you would tell someone, and from a football perspective, you were the best player on the field, but you worked the hardest as well. Right. So the kids who weren't as good as you said, oh man, if I work as hard as Irving, maybe I can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. That's what I used. And I used it not only in my sports career, I used it in my Wall Street career, and I use it in my career as I speak now.
Mm. So you believe in mentorship and training initiatives? When you're doing those kinds of things and you're conveying the information and you're leading folk, what is your focus? What do you focus on in terms of, okay, this is the foundation of what it is we're trying to do, and this is how we're going to get it done?
I always just say, listen, I could show you, my actions could speak louder than my words.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's working on the street, working on Wall Street, whether it's working in business now, I am going to be the hardest worker there. Now, I'll tell you this, there may be people out there who are smarter than me, but no one's going to outwork me.
There you go.
So,
right.
So if I'm smart and I work extremely hard,
mm-hmm.
I'm Kobe Bryant. I'm Michael Jordan. I'm the top of my industry. I'm
mm-hmm.
the best in my field. So I put those two things together, and then the men and women who work with me, they see that, and so I try to set the bar.
Right.
And I just think that's important in business. That's important in life. That's important in everything you do. You set the bar. Don't
right.
let nobody else set the bar for you.
Lead by example. That's great. You mentioned basketball. You had a basketball career at Columbia University, where you went to school. But I read something about the fact that you played basketball. Did Barack Obama play basketball with you, or he did not make the basketball team? What happened with that?
Well, we were at Columbia for 2 years together,
uh-huh.
and he always aspired, and he talks about what a good basketball player is, and he's not a bad basketball player.
He's a lefty though, right? He's a lefty, yeah.
But he's not a Division I basketball player. But
we might get zapped. Look, he might be listening right now.
No. I will tell you what he did was so smart. He surrounded himself, like his Secretary of Education was Arnie Duncan, who I played against at Harvard. Well, he was at Harvard when I was at Columbia. John Rogers, who's one of his mentors and people who was behind him, and his brother-in-law, Craig Robinson, Michelle Obama's brother. Right. They all played at Princeton. And Craig Robinson was the best player in the Ivy League. He was 6'8", and he was a monster. He played a little bit in the NBA as well. But the president was obviously an awesome student and went on to Harvard Law School and did all the great things that he has. But his greatest skill isn't basketball. Let's just say that.
I told you we keep it fire here at the Fryar Place. These conversations are fire. You talked a little bit, and we're going to keep moving. You talked a little bit about your mama, man, and I kind of sense that you feel like you see my mama, she's on and she's watching. She always supports everything I'm doing. And she's always on every week, mama. Here's another man whose mama's in the 80s, she's in her 80s, and he just came back from Harrisburg on his way here, down from Pittsburgh, stopped in Harrisburg to see your mama, man. I read something, a post of yours on Instagram. You said that your mother is the strongest person you've ever met.
And that just comes from, my father was 46 years old when he died of cancer. Mm-hmm. My mom was 40 years old at that time. Mm-hmm. My mother never remarried. I remember telling my mother, Mom, why don't you start dating? You're an attractive lady. I had the one love of my life. I'm good, Mark. Wow. My job is to make sure you, your brother and sister, have the opportunities in life that whatever that is that you want. Mm-hmm. And that's what she did. I mean, but what was really cool about my mom, she didn't only do that for me. When you look at like our high school, she eventually became the secretary for the high school, Alcoa High School. Mm-hmm. And if you talk to a Ty Law or Darrell Reeves or Sean Gilbert, all those quote unquote stars, they'll say, Miss Lay used to do this and made me go home because my pants were sagging. My mom was just the same qualities that she tried to instill in me. Yeah. She instilled them into the whole town. And I will tell you, when she retired from the school district, I said, Mom, I'll throw you a retirement party. You can invite 400 people. Mm-hmm. I said that, 400 people, $25 a plate, I got you. That's it. She had over 1,200 people at her retirement party. I mean, she's just that loved. And at 88 years old right now, wow. If you look at my little Facebook page, I got 5,000 friends. If I post a picture of me, I might get 200 likes. Mm-hmm. If I put my mom on she's getting 800 likes. Right. So I mean, it was just, she's just someone who's just, she led by example as well. And until she goes on to glory, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that she's happy. Because she did this, that's what she did for me.
That you sound like me. Ditto. Ditto, mama. Ditto, mama. You watching? Ditto.
Absolutely.
Love you. You got some nice friends too, man. We're gonna keep it moving. But before we talk about your friends, I gotta show this commercial. All right, we're gonna come back here in a minute. We're gonna show a commercial, I have a read, then we're gonna come on back and talk some more with Mike Lay. All right. All right, we're back. Listen, Stolefish Structures. Stolefish Structures is a 49-year-old family business. Stolefish Structures is a storage, shed, and garage company located in the heart of the Amish country. Yeah, they ship structures nationwide. You can check them out on myshed.com. They strive to be the undisputed choice of modular garages, sheds, and outdoor living products in the United States while furthering the kingdom of God. That's why I love them. Stouffer Structures is known for their fast delivery, great quality, and great client service. So if you're looking to a garage or for a garage or a shed or any kind of outdoor living product, Stouffer Structures is the way to go. Check them out on myshed.com. We're back with, I said Mike earlier. Y'all missed that. I said Mike Lay. It's Mark Lay. I'm sorry, Mark. I'm jacking his name up.
No problem. You fed me. You didn't call me late for dinner.
No, I'm not. Look, we already ate. So, but you got some friends. We stopped and went to the commercial. What's it like to have Magic Johnson as your friend, man?
What it is that my folks on Wall Street, like Jim Reynolds, who runs Loop Capital, or John Utendahl, who used to run Utendahl Capital and became a very successful vice chair of a major bank, Deutsche Bank, and so forth, in Wall Street, and John Rogers, Ariel Capital. You know, it's a very small, tight community of African Americans on Wall Street, and their connections to the rest of the country is just legendary. So Jim Reynolds, who was out of Chicago, started a company with Magic Johnson.
Okay.
That's how I was able to, get connected with them. John Rogers and Melody Hobson, who's married to the gentleman who created Star Wars, Lucas. These individuals, and that's another thing I want to make sure that people understand. One of the keys to success in business is networking. And you meet people, and they know people, and you know people, and once you get all that together, the degrees of separation is so small that you become friends. And I always tell people, you put me together with someone, give me amount of time, they're going to do business with me, and I just believe that. We both are avid golfers. I always tell people always say business is done on a golf course.
Yes, sir.
But if I can get someone for 4 or 5 hours with me on a pristine golf course, and I can't close that business, I don't deserve it. I don't deserve it. That's just how I feel. And that's the case with the network that I was able to, the gentlemen and the sisters that I was able to work with on Wall Street. The networks were so vast, and their friends became my friends, and that's how business is done.
And Patti LaBelle, too.
Well, Patti LaBelle is more through my wife and the place they all go in Philadelphia where they get the brows and lashes and nails done. And
say that you don't know her that way, huh?
No, not me personally. And I was fortunate enough to get invited for the president for the Juneteenth celebration, and Patti LaBelle threw down. She was the closer for at the White House on the South Lawn. So it's just a lot of events like that where you get an opportunity to meet people, and once again you get an opportunity to meet someone and they're in a field or something of interest that you like to do. Shoot your shot, go for it.
I met Patti LaBelle. I met her in person once. I've been to a few of her concerts, obviously, but the first time I met her was the same year I got drafted. The same year I got drafted, 1984, was the same year the Sullivans, who were the owner of the Patriots at the time, were doing the Michael Jackson tour. So they had this big event where Michael Jackson was there, and they invited me to come and sit at one of the head tables because I was, the first round draft choice. So I was the other big thing that they were doing. And Patti LaBelle sat at my table. She sat right next to me. And that's when she had just finished putting out that song. She redid Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Remember when she did a song? She tore it up. And I leaned over and asked her, I said, Miss LaBelle, would you sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow to me? And she sang it to me, man.
Wow.
Ever since then, I've been in love with Patti LaBelle.
I'm not mad at you. And even
she sang it low, but she sang it to me, man, right in my ear. She leaned over in my ear.
I had a similar experience. It was a brother from Philadelphia. His name was Joe Watkins. He worked in the White House under George Bush Sr. And he invited me to the White House, and George Bush Sr. had this fascination with Whitney Houston.
Wow.
And he had Whitney to come to the event with George Bush and myself and others, and to see her sing just for us was, oh my God.
Oh, she sang just for y'all.
Just for us. It was an incredible experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now Whitney could sing.
Yeah.
That girl there was unbelievable.
Absolutely.
You mentioned him, George Bush Sr. and also Bill Clinton. You had an opportunity to work with both of them. What was that like? My God, listen. I got this great man, y'all, in my studio, in my house. I need to get him, if I can get him to look in the camera though, instead of looking at me. I got this great man in my house. He's right here next to me. I got a camera pointing at him. He keeps looking at me, but that's okay.
No problem.
But this great man with all these accomplishments in my house, here in the studio, in my humble abode. I'm like, I was scared when he walked in the door. He's been with some great people. George Bush Sr., not Jr., Sr. was the man. And Bill Clinton, what are they like? What was that like?
The reality is they were men just like you and I. And we developed friendships through the network that we talked about earlier. And I was able to get introduced to them, and I made the best of it. I tell people I did business City of Houston or Shell Oil or Texas Southern University because the president of the United States then, George Bush, who was from Texas, recommended me very strongly. I did a lot of work with the Pennsylvania AFL-CIO, a gentleman by the name of Bill George, who was very close to the Clinton and the Clinton administration. So when he made the introduction for me, I used it as an opportunity to get business. So when I started my own firm, at one point I had 28 out of the 50 states in the United States as clients.
Wow.
Every major city, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., you name it, they were clients. So I just use those individuals, and I say use I in a positive manner, to be able to get more assets for me to manage, to increase my network, so that because I really wanted to be successful. We talked about I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to be someone that people in my community could look up to and say, dang, I want to aspire to be like that. And that's how I did. So if I had the opportunity to meet the president, just like if I had the opportunity to meet the janitor of one of those whose money was in one of those funds that I was managing, I took the time to speak to him and let him know, look, I'm doing the best I can. I'm going to do the best I can, and that's just how it is.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about we have something else in common besides knowing people.
Right.
July 8, 2008, federal judge sentenced you to 12 years in prison on fraud charges for the loss of $216 million from a hedge fund that was put together for injured workers, and ordered you to pay $212.9 million in restitution and $590,000 in forfeiture, right? Forfeiture, I'm sorry. That's forfeiture is money that you supposedly earned while you were working with the hedge fund. Talk about that. They sentenced you to 12 years. We have that in common. We both been to prison. I mean, yours was federal, mine was state, but prison's prison. It's no different. And you lost everything, and you had to climb your way out of the hole and get back on your feet and get going again. Talk to me about that whole situation, that whole experience, how it came about, and then just go up to the point to where, the sentencing took place and now you're spending your first day in prison. I remember my first day, I was, like I said, downstairs when I was talking to you, I thought to myself, well, last night I was sleeping in my bed. And now tonight I'm sleeping on this hard cot. It was just, what a difference a day makes. It's crazy. So talk to us a little bit about that.
As a successful money manager, as someone who was doing TV, CNN, CNBC, ABC, CBS, all the TV shows on a weekly basis, I became somewhat of a very noticeable person. And when you do that, you become open for a target. And what I always knew was, where I did business, I made sure people knew me. But sometimes, in my particular case, my case was over the state of Ohio. I really didn't have like a cover in the state of Ohio. I got that business because a consultant looked at my performance. And he said, this guy, this is one of the top money managers. He put us in the Wall Street Journal. They talked about how well we were doing. And that's how I got that business. But I didn't have any friends in high places. So when this attack came against me, I was like, well, you know, they offered me a lighter sentence. I'm like, for what? I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
And I said, I'm going to fight it, which I did. And I got my head knocked off. But that's just the reality of it.
Been there, done that.
To this day, which is, 6 years later, I could still tell everybody, I didn't do anything. And if I had to do it all over, I'd do it the same way.
Right.
But the reality in that case is the hedge fund was an overlay strategy for another, here I go with this Wall Street terminology. I manage a bigger portfolio underneath.
Right.
It's like you bought a car for $30,000. The insurance company says, or the state of New Jersey says, you have to have insurance on that car. The insurance on that car, $30,000 car, might cost you $1,000 a year. Right? But what does that do? That protects your car in case you're in an accident.
Right.
In my case, the $200 million was the insurance policy for the $18 billion portfolio.
Got you.
So in the big picture, it sounds like a lot of money. Oh, he lost $200 million. But it really wasn't when you look at the size of the portfolio. It wasn't. Right. It was a gnat on the elephant's behind. It didn't even affect returns. But what happened was, so the portfolio was set up so that if interest rates were to go down, the portfolio wouldn't lose money or whatever the case may be. I don't want to get too technical. But the overlay strategy or the insurance policy lost $200 million. It really did.
Right. It was a loss, yeah. But it was a legitimate. Right. From what I read, it was a legitimate loss. I mean, losses happen when you're doing investments and things like that.
But the underlying portfolio made $600 million. So net, the client didn't lose a quarter.
Okay.
So, but when I went to trial, the first thing the judge said was to the jury, any money that this man made for the client is not part of the conversation. We're only talking to him about the loss. I said, well, it's the same client.
Well, yeah.
They didn't lose one quarter, but that's neither here nor
there. But investing, that's what investing is. You you may even lose to gain, or you gain and lose. Both happens when you're in investments.
I mean, most people understand that, but it wasn't a very sophisticated jury. I was in Akron, Ohio. I felt like
that sounds like the one in Mount Holly, New Jersey. It wasn't a very sophisticated jury either.
I felt like I was the first African-American male they had ever seen, and it is what it is. So, wow, it's water under the bridge. People always ask me, are you bitter? I was
going to ask you that because similar circumstance with me, it was a fraud conviction, and there was someone else. I'm not going to get into the details, but I was not guilty of what I got convicted for. I've been guilty of a lot of things in my life. I have been, but not that. Right. And went to prison for something that I should not have gone to prison for. When I was released about 8 years ago, it took me, I don't know about you, brother, you can help me out. It took me about 5 years to stop being angry. It took me about 5 years before I could actually see a little bit better and think a little clearer and actually get on my feet and start trying to do better for myself. Not that I was in the gutter or anything like that those 5 years, but my mind was in the gutter. I wasn't necessarily suicidal, but I'm going to say this because I didn't do it, but I was homicidal. I was looking to hurt somebody because I wanted payback. I wanted payback because I felt as though when I got out of prison, I was 53 years old. I felt as though my life was over. What was I going to do? I got a PhD. Who's going to hire me? And I started out working at a church making $400 a week. But my bills were way more than that a week. But somehow, some way, God took those 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread and kept multiplying. I don't know. Listen, bro, I don't know how I pay my bills. I don't, because I didn't have the money. I don't know how it happened, other than God did it.
Right.
Other than God did. So what was your mindset? Because you actually did 10 years in the pen. They sentenced you to 12 and you did 10. What was your mindset when you came out?
Well, first of all, while I was there, I had to make a choice. And it wasn't an easy one, but it's a real cliche, but it's true. It was you either going to be bitter or better, and I chose to make myself better.
Mm-hmm.
So every day I was there, I worked out physically, I read and educated myself even more,
Mm-hmm.
and spiritually, I just really, really worked on myself. I already knew Jesus. I already, was a Christian in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So I was saved and I wasn't concerned about it from that vantage point.
Right.
But so I took it every day. And the men who were there with me, they would tell every day. I thought I was going home every day for 10 and a half years.
Wow.
And I know that sounds crazy, but I believed in vindication.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in justice.
Yes.
So I refused to walk around bitter. I said, I'm going to be vindicated. And then I really started to study the life of people like Joseph. And he went from the pit to prison
Mm-hmm.
to the palace.
Yep, head of state.
And I said, Aliquippa, our football field is called the pit.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I used to play football in the pit.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm in prison. I said, the next stop for me has to be the palace.
Yeah.
So, and that was my mentality. So I just didn't have a place in my life to be bitter. And while I was there, I started training and teaching brothers about option strategies and investing.
Nice.
And it was amazing to me was brothers who were quote unquote drug dealers and all that kind of stuff. What I learned was 75%, and this is nothing statistical. This is Mark Lay's statistics. So believe me, you're not going to find this in some book. This is just me talking. I say 75% of all the people who are incarcerated have no business being incarcerated. They're there because they was trying to provide for their families. They were trying to provide for their little brothers or sisters. It wasn't that they weren't trying to be slick. They wasn't trying to get over on the system. 25% are crash dummies who probably should be doing some time.
Right.
But 75%, but those 75%.
I agree with you.
Yeah, those 75%, when we sat down in the classes and I started teaching them how to do strangles and straddles and butterflies and all different types of option strategies, they were buying puts and calls. And every day, even now, I get calls from brothers who were incarcerated with me who are very successful in their own personal lives investing money. And so even though it was a hard time for me, a trying time for me, it was a very rewarding time because, God allowed me to see that, in any situation there can be good, in any situation. And even though I would never want to go back there was a lot of days, man, when we laughed and we smiled and it's like, man, we in prison.
Right.
You know what I mean? But God, and I learned. So even when I came out, I just, I there's no place for me right now to be bitter. And we were talking, and I actually forgot one of the places I was.
Yeah, that's a good thing because I remember all the names of the places I was. But you know what? Like you said, and it is, we go through whatever it is we deal with as human beings, trials and tribulations and tough times, bitter situations. They happen so that we become better, we become stronger, we become wiser, become more of who it is we're supposed to be. And I believe now that I've gotten beyond that period of time of being angry, because that's actually who I was anyway. That's how I played football. I played football angry. I was an angry kid. I was an angry teenager. I was an angry grown man. And I used that anger to perform my craft on the field. But God needed to get that anger out of me. It took a while because but over those 5 years, I realized that, okay, this is what God wants out of me. I keep putting it back in me. He's trying to get it out of me, and I keep holding on to it. Let it go. And I finally realized that, yes, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because now that bitterness has made me better. I've gotten rid of it, and because I've gotten rid of it, now I'm a better me.
Right.
This is a different version of me, man. And it never would have happened had I gone to prison. It never would have happened. I'd probably still be walking around an angry black man. People didn't know it, but it was killing me on the inside. And my relationships with people was really the thing that almost crushed me. when people turned their backs and walked away from me and didn't support me and talked about me and threw salt on the situation, and people that before I was incarcerated, before I was indicted, people that I would have done anything for, that meant something to me, I found out that I didn't mean anything to them. That was the most hurtful part of that whole experience. But it's all good now. It's all good.
But and it happens to me to this day. And I always tell people, when you're in jail, they use a term called spin. Don't spin me. I tell people now, you do not have to like me. You, for whatever reason, you go your way, I go my way. Right. God bless you. I wish you the best in life. But those of you who are my friends, man, I'm a ride or die type of brother, and those are the individuals I want around me. Right. So I totally get it, and I know what you. I feel you, and I know exactly what you're saying. And I always say this: I don't wish jail on anyone, Right. But I will say, I wish a lot of people had just a taste of the experience. I don't care if you go, I don't want you to go there just because of the discipline. Like, you were a top athlete. I was a top trader on Wall Street. So we had discipline. We had aptitude when it came to our crafts. We knew what it took to be successful. But when you go to jail, it's a whole nother level of survival. Yeah. And not only, not just physical survival, not just spiritual survival, just day to day. Exactly. In that mind is you get it closed in. And like I said, I spent time in solitary confinement. Good Lord, you could, you
go crazy in there.
No question. Yeah. But it really taught me now, man, Satan he has a hard time coming at me, attacking me, because they threw a lot at me and threw it all. But God, I'm here standing. I'm successful, and success is determined by me, not by the world, not by my friends, not by my wife, not by my kids. It's determined by me, and I'm successful. I'm happy, and things are going well.
And here's one of the other things about prison and incarceration that I've come to realize, that it's not about rehabilitation. Incarceration is not about rehabilitation anymore. It's about punishment. It's about punishment. Yep. Because they took a person like you. I'll just use you as an example. You didn't hurt anybody. You weren't a murderer. You didn't commit a crime, so to speak, or get convicted, I should say, for a crime that made you or deemed you as a dangerous human being, physically dangerous human being that needs to be in prison because you're a danger to society. No. It was what they call a white collar crime that you got convicted for. I got convicted for a white collar crime, but they put us in situations in prison with other people who could be harmful.
No question.
They just put you in the mix. They put you in the mix with anybody and everybody, which is, I don't think, is right. Because even white collar crimes, I don't think incarceration warrants that. I think maybe fines, maybe probation, something like that is more applicable, more appropriate for white collar crimes, because you didn't hurt anybody. You're not a threat to society physically. You're not walking down the street, threatening people or harming people. So that's one of the things about prisons and incarceration that I've come to realize, that it's not about rehabilitation. And most people who do come out don't come out better.
You're absolutely right.
Because when they come out, they don't have anything. They don't have a support system. They don't have any clothing. They don't have any housing. They don't have any money. They don't have anything. And the recidivism rate continues to increase because the system sets you up for recidivism to do something to cause you to go back to prison, to repeat your steps.
That is a fact. And rehabilitation is something that it's supposed to be the core of prison, but it's definitely not taught. That's why I got so much pleasure out of teaching financial literacy. That's why I got so much pleasure out of competing athletically. I tell people I wasn't going to crack an egg in a food fight while I was in there, but on that basketball court, I had the biggest mouth in there. Yeah. In my classrooms, I don't care who was in my class. If that class started at 10 o'clock and you came in at 10:02, I'm kicking you out. I don't care how big, how strong. This is my class. This is what I do, and this is what, and the discipline once again, and brothers and sisters, and it's colorless in that regard. But the men who were incarcerated with me, some of the aptitudes were just. I mean, I just wish they could have taken IQ tests because they were so smart. And once I started teaching concepts, they would take them to the 10th degree, understanding them. So I understood that if you give people an opportunity to learn and understand, whether it's financial literacy, whether it's medicine, whether it's law, whatever the case may be, you give them the opportunity, they can excel at it. But a lot of us haven't been given opportunities. I was blessed and fortunate. That's why I do what I do now, and that's why I try to give back.
That's awesome. What was, for you, what was the most difficult part of that whole entire experience? From the indictment to the conviction to the sentencing to the actual time in prison, even coming out and trying to get yourself back together, you get on your feet again. What was the most difficult part of that whole season in your life?
There was many. I remember,
I know there was many. What was the most difficult?
I just wanted to scream out to everybody, I didn't do anything.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't get paid for it. I didn't take any money. There was no money missing.
Right.
I didn't do anything. But once again, people only believe what
they don't want to hear that. I want to say the same thing, but I don't say it because people don't want to hear it.
So I had to swallow that pill. So that was very difficult for me. I am a victim of separation anxiety. So me as an individual being incarcerated, I could do that. But to miss all the birthdays, the birth of my grandkids and stuff like that because I'm incarcerated was very difficult for me. Okay. Very difficult for me. And then the third thing, you said one.
No, it's all right. It's okay.
Three now.
One for the Father, Son, Holy Ghost.
And the third thing is my mother would beg people to, can you ride me to New Jersey so I can go see Mark? My mother just wanted to see me. And to have her hurt like that, when I got out, I went to my mom's house. She had a closet with just prayers in it for me. She has other kids, my brother and my sister. Nothing but prayers for me. Dear God, please watch Mark. Dear God. And it crushed her because my mom and I are very close. So that was the third part that was very difficult for me, not knowing that my mother was suffering along with me every single day because I wasn't there.
Yeah, I understand that. So before we close, man, I'm going to give you an opportunity to give a word to some, because we talked about it. We talked about the good times, and we shared, and been transparent about, some real things that happened in both of our lives, which, some would say would be the worst. Who wants to go to prison? I guess maybe having cancer and being sick or something like that might be worse than that. But I don't know.
Me either.
I don't know, because there were many days. I mean, you said to yourself, you're getting out every day. You thought you were getting out every day. I didn't know when I was getting out. I mean, I was sentenced for less time than you, but I didn't know anything. I really didn't. And it was those first few months were very difficult because I didn't know anything. Right. I didn't know anything. And then, it's a lot more difficult. And I learned this in prison, to do your time when you're connected to something or someone outside. So, there are a lot of guys in prison, at least my experience was, they would disconnect themselves from any family, disconnect themselves from any people that they cared about, disconnect themselves from anything going on outside so that they could do their time in peace. But when you're connected to something outside, you're stressed about, when am I getting out? When am I getting out so I can participate in what's happening out there? And I was always connected to the church, my church. I was connected to family, so that made it difficult. But give a word, someone who's watching, someone who will watch this. What is your word of encouragement? What is your word to someone who finds themselves, who has found themselves in a real difficult situation, and maybe doesn't know what to do, or maybe is discouraged, or maybe is thinking about doing something crazy? What is your word of wisdom? What is your word of encouragement to someone like that?
I would tell them that the sun is going to rise tomorrow. And I remember being incarcerated and an old guy came up to me, old G came up to me and said, "Young fella, how much time you got left?" I just got there, and I was like, "Oh, I got like 9 years and 8 months." He said, "Oh, man, you're a short timer, man. You're going home tomorrow." He had did 40 years. So put it in perspective. He had been there his whole entire life. He was 60 years old. He'd been incarcerated since he was 20. So for him, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, that's nothing. So I would encourage everyone out there, perspective, your perspective on life, my perspective on life is what's going to carry you. Don't get caught up in the numbers. Don't get caught up in what people are saying. Don't get caught up in what anybody else is doing. I told you, I measure my success. You know, I you know, because of my faith, I know that I can do whatever it is I put my mind to and overcome any situations that I am in. So I don't let my lying eyes guide me. I let my spirit guide me. And I try to surround myself by people who are like-minded. And because of that, life is a lot more peaceful now than it used to be for me. So I would just encourage you, you know, find people who are like-minded. Don't believe everything that you see. Have faith in what you are doing and really believe it, and you can overcome almost anything. Not almost. You can overcome anything.
Woo. Woo. You think about preaching? That was a sermonette there, bro. Mark Lay. Reverend Dr. Mark Lay. Time to pass the plate, y'all. Pass the plate. Pass the plate. Man, the show is done, but I know we're not done. We're going to play golf. Look, this is just the beginning for us, brother. I really do appreciate you. First of all, I appreciate you coming last week and being there in person at the Fryar Place, at the Cigar Code. You got a cigar lounge too. Don't you own a cigar lounge?
I sold my interest
You sold it?
Because it's just, I'm too old.
When did you sell it?
I was in it for about a year. And what happened was, I'm not a late night guy. So, you know, I mean, when you're in a cash type business like that, you got to be there when it opens, you got to be there when it closes. And Mark Lay wasn't going to be there at 2 o'clock in the morning because I got too many other businesses that I'm doing. Right. So I had to get out of it. But it was rewarding because it was in my hometown of Aliquippa. Okay. It was my way of trying to help to give back. And it's still going. The young brother who's doing it now, Dante Williams, is doing an awesome job and very successful at it. So I'm happy. Great.
But it's amazing how the older you get, the closer dinner time and bedtime get together.
Absolutely.
You young folk don't know anything about that yet. But when you get 60 and getting up there in your age, dinner time and bedtime get real close together.
Absolutely.
Mark, thank you so much for being here at the Fryar Place today. Excellent, man. Excellent talk. Thanks for being transparent. Thanks for your word of encouragement and wisdom to everybody when it comes to dealing with troubles and challenges in our lives. And man, God bless you. And I'm riding out with you. So, you know, I'm not going to say bye because we're not going to be separated from this point forward. I'm looking forward to playing golf with you. But y'all, come on, put your hands together for my friend, my guest, Mark Lay, in the house.
Thank you.
All right, brother. Thank you for being here, brother. Thank you. Yes, that was excellent, y'all. Excellent. Listen, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me get rid of this logo. Okay, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button. Come on with us. Make a comment. If you liked today's show, if you got anything from today's show, which you should have, you got some financial literacy, you got some spiritual encouragement. Man, today was a full nugget of information. Hit the like button, hit the comment button, share, subscribe. This is the Fryar Place where the conversations are fire. Mike Witt, thanks for being with us today. Glenn Morton is in the house. Mama, God bless you. Love you, sweetheart. Bree, you too. Thanks for being with us today. Who else is in the house? Okay, that was just all of y'all making all those comments. All right, we'll be back next week. Same time, same place, same purpose here in the studio to have a conversation that is fire. Y'all make sure you be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Why? Because you reap what you sow. We're out of here. See you next week, 6 o'clock, right here at the Fryar Place where the conversations are fire.